We'll give you the 3 minutes. I have each of you speak, and then we'll have questions after the full panel. So why don't we start with Brent? If you, sir, would state your full name, your position, and that you're testifying neutrally.
Thank you, Chairman. Brent Smith, Kinney County Attorney, and I'm testifying as a neutral. Kinney County is a small county that shares 17 miles of its border with Mexico. We have a population of only 3,200 residents, most of whom are farmers and ranchers. In the year 2020, there were 134 criminal charges reported within the county. This drastically changed in 2021 under the Biden administration when criminal cartels seized control of our open border and imposed their own policies that would allow their criminal enterprises to thrive. In 2021, the number of reported criminal charges increased from 134 to 2,708. In 2022, this number exploded to 6,800 criminal charges being reported. In 2023, there were 5,826 criminal charges reported in Kinney County. Most law enforcement along the border agree that 60% of illegal entries are never witnessed or apprehended and remain at large within our borders. So far in 2024, Border Patrol brush teams in Kinney County have made 5,173 apprehensions with 2,827 known gotaways. For the month of September alone, Border Patrol has apprehended over 200 illegal aliens on private property and documented well over 50 known gotaways. Our DPS brush teams cannot currently meet this demand or even respond in most cases with their limited number and large area of operations. It is important to note that the current policies that Border Patrol operates under do not allow for them to transfer anyone apprehended back into state custody for prosecution without an existing warrant in place. In most cases, suspects are released prior to obtaining warrants for their arrest. From a prosecutor's perspective, I can tell you that our state law enforcement's presence on the ground is inadequate to confront these numbers and effectively enforce state law. Our border security efforts thus far have been reactive in nature and lack the necessary coordination and training to secure not only our border but our entire state. This border crisis can be broken down to three distinct areas of criminal behavior: illegal entry of persons or narcotics into Texas, smuggling of persons or narcotics to their destination, and engaging in criminal activity at that destination. Each of these requires specific training, tactics, equipment, and coordination to successfully confront. In other words, each requires its own separate toolbox for the job, so to speak. The need for an advanced comprehensive security measures has grown far beyond the Texas border counties and is now a statewide issue. To adequately address these threats, Texas needs to form a statewide response and create a law enforcement agency that is specifically tasked and trained to accomplish such a mission. Texas must now turn to an offensive approach and take proactive measures that will maintain the security presence we have gained through OLS and ensure taxpayer dollars are used in the most effective way possible. I'll take your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Brad, if you'll state your name, position, and that you're testifying neutrally.
My name is Brad Coe. I'm the Sheriff of Kinney County. I'm neutral in this position. Like I said, my name is Brad Coe. I'm the Sheriff of Kinney County. I'm currently in my second term as sheriff. Prior to being elected to my current position, I served with the U.S. Border Patrol for over 30 years, all of which were in Kinney County. So I'm well aware of the illegal traffic and human smuggling trends that have occurred over the past 39 years. Since the beginning of the Biden-Harris administration, Kinney County has seen an unprecedented increase in illegal alien foot traffic walking through our area ranches and human smuggling. Prior to 2021, Kinney County Sheriff's Office would arrest 10 to 15 human smugglers per year. In 2021, we arrested a total of 168. In 2022, 783. 2023, 902. This is all done with 6 deputies, 6 part-time deputies, and the assistance of Galveston County Sheriff's Office and Galveston County Constable's Offices, precincts 2 and 4. And so far for this year, numbers are down. We've only apprehended 124 human smugglers, which is still head and shoulders above what we did prior to the current administration. Because of aggressive enforcement, prosecution, and the governor's actions, we have managed to push the illegal alien traffic west into New Mexico, Arizona, and California. Our Operation Lone Star funding is key in fighting this problem. It provides us jail space, overtime, personnel, and prosecution and equipment. no matter how this upcoming election goes, we will continue to see a huge influx in illegal immigration to our county. Securing the border and controlling the entry is just one part of the equation. The arrest, prosecution, removal is the other part. Sanctuary cities, prosecutors, and local law enforcement agencies who refuse to cooperate with federal agencies regarding illegal aliens need to be held accountable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, Justin, state your name, your position, and that you're testifying neutrally.
Thank you, Chairman Hunt, members of the committee. I'm Justin West. I'm the elected constable of Galveston County Precinct 4, and I'm testifying neutrally today. I'd like to share a little bit about our county's participation in Operation Lone Star. In July of 2021, our county judge and commissioners court signed an emergency declaration as a result of an increase in crimes like burglaries, drugs, and domestic violence, as well as drug overdoses and fentanyl poisoning due to the effects of the open border policies of the federal government. Many of the suspects were arrested, and some even held on federal immigration detainers. Together with another constable's office and the sheriff's office in Galveston County, along with the sheriff's office in Kinney County, we came up with a plan to deploy and help support securing our border. Around the same time, Governor Abbott and his team formulated Operation Lone Star, and Representative Dr. Greg Bonin, who is very supportive of securing our border, worked on language with the governor's office and legislature to make sure that we were able to participate in this program. Since beginning our deployments, we've seen thousands of illegal aliens being smuggled and the livelihood of Texas citizens being destroyed along the border. Since our federal government refused to act, Texas, like in many other situations, has taken the lead and set the example on securing the border. During nearly every rotation that we've made to the border, we've interdicted smugglers either from Galveston County or from across the state and country with a destination inside of Galveston County. Remember that the Houston area is still one of the top locations for human and drug smuggling and trafficking for our nation. Since the beginning of our deployments, we've been arresting residents of Galveston County, interrupting the smuggling to our county, as well as lowering the numbers that have been killed from fentanyl poisoning. In addition to the decrease in crime and overdoses, several of our cases from border interactions have been linked to ongoing federal cases against cartel operations and operatives in our county and in our region. The interruption and flow of illegal aliens and dangerous drugs from our participation in Operation Lone Star has made Galveston County and the state of Texas safer. Nearly every single jurisdiction in the state has experienced the impacts of illegal immigration and human smuggling. It is now a regular occurrence to see a case where illegal aliens are being discovered all the way to East Texas. Operation Lone Star has been instrumental in disrupting cartel operations along the border. Major locations for cartel operations and sometimes extreme violence, such as Shelby Park, have been shut down by Operation Lone Star. Additionally, millions of doses of deadly fentanyl worth millions of dollars have been taken off our streets. Thanks to the efforts of Operation Lone Star, the state of Texas has been spared the most dire of consequences of what unchallenged illegal immigration and open border policies may bring. Regional enforcement of crimes stemming from human smuggling and human trafficking is becoming effective and can be used as a model to reproduce across the state. Regional coalitions of counties will help combat the crime at home, while border operations help stem the flow into the state. Galveston County continues to be proud of our participation in Operation Lone Star and the successes working in and with Kinney County, and looking forward to continued operation with our state and federal partners. Thank you again, Chairman Hunter and members of the committee, for your time to hear today about the efforts, successes, and needs of Operation Lone Star for taking the lead to safeguard Texas from the threat posed by cartel, illegal immigration, and drug trafficking.
Thank you very much. Questions, members? Chairman Thompson, followed by Chairman Gill.
Okay. Constable West, thank you for your service.
Thank you, ma'am.
I know you was talking about the trafficking problem, but for the last 21 years, we've had a trafficking problem with over 100,000 persons coming through our state, basically because of Interstate 10. It's been so accessible, so that's a
ma'am.
big problem. Do you arrest many of these persons?
I'm sorry?
Do you all arrest any of these people?
Which people, ma'am?
The people that you say that you're coming in contact with illegals?
The smugglers?
Yeah.
We do arrest the smugglers, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you say, how many did you arrest last year?
I can get you those numbers. We're reporting our numbers all to DPS through Kinney County.
Okay. And do you think it was 100? Less than 100? Any of them on the panel can answer the question.
Sheriff Bell.
There we go.
State your name when we
This
switch.
is Brad Coe. Last year for 2023, just in Kinney County Sheriff's Office, We arrested 903 people smuggling people into the United States.
So you put them in your jails?
Through Operation Lone Star, we were able to provide space throughout the state to put them in jail.
When you said throughout the state, I mean other jails that may have vacancies where they
The
could.
governor opened up the Briscoe unit, the Lopez unit, and the Segovia unit for us to utilize to put human smugglers.
Okay. And what is the normal time that they stay in those facilities?
It depends on if they bond out. If sometimes it takes 2 or 3 months for them to get the funds together to bond out. Sometimes they're there until they go to court.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Chairman Gian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brent, I know that you've been a real big leader when it comes to border security. I've seen you all across South Texas, across my district, across several other districts, and I know, and throughout the state, talking about border security and your experiences on the border. You mentioned in your testimony some concerns that you have with the current efforts. Can you elaborate a little bit?
You know, I think in 2021, when this crisis started and Texas Military Department and DPS came to the call, they did a great job. They still are doing a great job, but I think their resources are stretched. I think the state and with local governments involved need more coordination of just not only training, but equipment and sharing intelligence to have a more concise effort to make, state tax dollars go farther. I believe that, counties and other places in the state have a tendency to operate in bubbles or silos where, we know what's going on in this county, but the next county over, we have no idea. So it's intelligence sharing, it's coordinated efforts, it's having, a team working together and able to be saving money in the long run. So that's kind of what I was going with that part is the resources, sharing the resources, strategies, everything else together. And I think doing that will make us much more effective and, stretch the dollar even more than we are right now.
So you're a county attorney there in Kinney County, but not only when it comes to our court system, also OLS and how it's been distributed throughout each county. When you look at your experience talking to these other counties that you've gone to, is there a lack of money? Is it divided up inefficiently or unequally? What are your comments?
I don't have too much knowledge on how it's divided because I don't know what other counties are getting. I just know what Kinney County receives and how we use it. But I believe in OLS, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but, the more participation, the more prosecutions and arrests that are occurring, that's where more the money would go because they need more resources. So I think it's whether counties are participating or not will determine that.
Yeah.
But, and like you said, I've been a lot through South Texas a lot and mainly talking to landowners on the compensation program that the AG's office is handling that y'all passed last year for, and if y'all aren't aware, there's a landowner compensation program for border crime where landowners have fences, gates, equipment destroyed. There's a program where landowners can be compensated on that issue. And we did a lot of traveling, talking to landowners, educating them about it. But as far as Operation Lone Star and counties getting certain fundings and others, that's kind of out of my realm. But I can tell you that we're very grateful for the governor's operation. If it wasn't for that operation, we wouldn't be able to do this. When I took office, it was me and my secretary. That's it. And now I have, 5 or 6 legal assistants and 3 assistant prosecutors. We've prosecuted over 6,000 cases, and we're going forward, and we're set up now. And when Operation Lone Star takes effect, it's not just the prosecutor, though, that you have to look at the clerk's office, the judge's office, the courtrooms. One of the things that we're still kind of trying to coordinate and get around is we have one courtroom, and the DA and I have to share that courtroom depending on the dates. So having more trials, we're going to have more courtrooms, and that's something that we haven't figured out how to get around yet. But then there's more judges, more court reporters. So the more numbers coming down the pipe, the more resources you have to have.
Thank you.
Representative Spiller.
Briefly, just again, thank y'all for what you do, and I appreciate working with Brent and you, Sheriff Coe, both y'all in the past on several things. Brent, I want to ask you a question that, and I asked before Ms. Lavoy with the OCA about the handling of these, because you've said you've handled over 6,000 of these cases. You're kind of on the front line. What you handle as a county attorney are misdemeanors, correct?
Correct.
And most of those, as they relate to board security, I'm assuming are under the charge of criminal trespass.
For the most part, correct.
All right. And can you, I think you may have been sitting here when I asked the question before, as far as the process, those folks, how they're handled, attorneys appointed for them, they generally, I think, would sit in jail rather than being in a position to bond out, but eventually come up, their case is handled, you have a disposition. Are most of them, do they just plead to time served, that they've sat in jail during that time period, or how does that work?
Well, the disposition of the cases is kind of a mixed bag. You know, the ones that do plea out do plead to no contest or being guilty. We've had one jury trial in Kinney County. He was found guilty. He was sentenced to a year in jail. But when they do get out on a bond, a cash bond, then at that point they have an ICE detainer on them, and ICE will usually come pick them up for the most part. When they serve their jail time and then get out of jail, they have an ICE detainer on them for the most part. And why ICE determines a detainer goes on some and not others, I'm not sure. But for the majority of them, they have ICE detainers on them. But what happens to them after that is kind of a black hole as far as the
So
state
when
goes.
you have them, and Sheriff Coe has in his jail, they plead, presumably ICE is contacted, whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony?
The way the Operation Lone Star is set up, like Sheriff Coe was saying, Briscoe, Segovia, and Lopez units, they're the ones that do contact ICE when there's a release order that comes through. They contact ICE and let them know, like, this person's fixing to be released. He's either pled or he's bonding out. Whatever the case is, if he's fixing to be released from jail, they contact ICE.
All right. And so ICE typically will have 72 hours or whatever to go pick them up, and they transport them someplace, but you're telling me you don't really know what happens to them after that?
Correct.
Do you have any knowledge that any of those folks are processed and returned back to the country of origin as opposed to being released into the population?
If I had to take a guess at this, I think it's going to depend on what country they're from. If they're from Mexico, I believe they are voluntarily returned usually, or some type of return occurs. But other countries, I have no idea.
Okay.
But then there's, but the other part of this as well is a lot of times when they do bond out with a cash bond, they do appear by Zoom, but many don't. They won't even show up for court. So I would say at least half don't show up for court once they bond out.
Typically, who would be posting that cash bond for them?
It ranges. I think the sheriff would be able to speak to this, but a lot of times one person will come in and pay the bond for 10 or 15 people, cash bonds. And I know there's been certain scenarios where there's been a human smuggler for, I think he had a $400,000 cash bond set, and they paid it in cash. That's not your normal circumstance, but I'll let Sheriff speak to that for a little bit.
Yes, we had a couple of
And
times.
state your name.
Pardon?
State your name because
Oh.
he shifted the mic.
I'm sorry, Brad Coe. We had one individual that was picked up for criminal trespass. He was given a $2,000 cash bond, bonded out. We arrested him about 2 weeks later for the same thing. He was given a $10,000 cash bond. Within 24 hours, he bonded out. We've had groups that we've picked up 8 or 10 people, and within 24 hours, there'll be somebody show up with, $10,000, $15,000 cash to bond them all out. So it tells me that this is not just part of the routine. It's part of the alien smuggling group. It's part of cartel involvement for these people that have literally nothing to come up with $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in cash. They're selling everything they have to be here, to be smuggled in. Plus, they're selling everything that they don't have, their future endowments, to get out of jail. They're wanting them out of jail for a reason. And that part we don't know. That's the terrifying part.
And it sounds like the problem is if they get out, you're not necessarily done with them. You may see them again.
We may or may not see them again.
Right. Thank you.
I can speak to the see him and again part. The cartels in
You
our
gotta
area.
state your name.
I'm sorry, Brent Smith. The cartels in our operation or our areas of operation, you pay them and you get 3 chances to cross. So usually we'll have someone arrested, sometimes a 3rd time, but never a 4th. It's because they have to pay again if they don't get across in 3 times.
Any other questions, members? Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir.
And then, members, our last panel